وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما أمسى بي من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك، فلك الحمد ولك الشكر يا ربي، لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه ونستغفرك لما لا نعلم. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن، وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل، وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل، وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم عافني في بدني، اللهم عافني في سمعي، اللهم عافني في بصري، لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الكفر والفقر، وأعوذ بك من عذاب القبر، لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت، خلقتني وأنا عبدك، وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت. أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت، أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لي، فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت.
شكرا شيخ حمدي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome in this greeting evening. We have Ahmad Khalifa from the Palestinian Youth Movement. He will take some minutes to introduce some something legal. Then we will move to CAIR representatives. Ahmed will represent them or will introduce them later. Thank you for attending our event today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just want to give a brief political grounding of what's going on in the U.S. when it comes towards immigration, attacks on immigration, on people getting snatched up in the streets, and how this issue isn't just an immigrant community issue, isn't just a Latino community issue, or a Pakistani community issue, like any like Somali issue, any Muslim immigrant issue. This issue is a human issue, a Muslim issue, and it's tied together to what's going on all around the world with imperialism back home in Palestine and in Sudan and all over the world. So currently, as you know, we in this administration, there has been targeted attacks on immigrant communities, specifically in LA, more so than other places around the country, where people are getting snatched up on the streets left and right, from graduation events, from work, people who are undocumented, most of them, but some of the times it doesn't matter whether they have documentation or not. People are still getting abducted here and there. And currently, this issue is something that we need to be conscious of. And I hear sometimes in our communities say, oh, this isn't our problem for something like this going on. Like, this issue with immigration is not our fight. And we don't need to show up for other communities. And that is, in fact, not the case. The tactics being used here in the US are tactics that are used back home in Palestine by Iowa forces in abducting kids and abducting family members off the streets. It's used by imperialist soldiers all over the world, and it's something that we need to be conscious of, and it is a duty as Muslims and as community members to be out there fighting for each other, fighting for each other's rights and each other's practices and views in others' communities. Just because this issue hasn't currently hit our communities as hard as it's hit the Latino community, doesn't mean that this issue is not connected. We see that that all immigrant communities are being targeted, and that eventually, more likely than not, all non-white communities are going to get hit at some point. And it's just a matter of time when that's going to happen. And while right now the main target is more undocumented and more poor Latino and African communities in the area, it will come back to all of us. So we have to be conscious and be aware of our rights and be ready to keep each other safe and keep our communities safe and stand in solidarity with each other. At the end of the day, this is a human issue, and it's our duty as Muslims to carry on and keep each other safe and protect each other, and to just look out for our neighbors, our family, our friends, even those you might not agree with. At the end of the day, this is something that will affect us all. And I'd like to introduce CAIR to give the legal discussion and the legal Know Your Rights training. We will be having materials outside on the table for after the training is done, and we'll be here to answer any questions after the fact as well.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Okay. Amina's going to pass around a sign-in sheet. We're funded by grants, so it's just some reporting stuff. That'd be helpful. Thank you.
You just have to put like your country of origin, race, and if you speak any foreign language, excuse me, and the county that you live in. You don't have to put in any personal information like your name or phone number. We just need to know the numbers. And if you want us to call you back to have a one-on-one consultation, you can use the QR code down there, and we'll have a phone number at the end of the presentation that will also provide our contact information. So we'll pass this around as while she's doing the presentation. Go ahead.
Okay.
There's also a disclaimer.
Keep it closer.
You have to
Put it here?
Okay, you have to
Yes, you can handle this.
hold it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. We're speaking about Know Your Rights today when dealing with ICE interactions. Okay, so if you guys aren't familiar with CAIR, we're a civil liberties organization. We also provide immigrant services. So we'll do like family petitions, asylum, humanitarian petitions, and some other stuff, yeah. Okay, so the topics we're gonna cover today is who is ICE, what you should know when interacting with ICE, some safety plans, and then we'll have a section for questions and answers. Okay, so what is ICE? ICE is a sub-agency of the Department of Homeland Security. There's three main branches of that department. We have U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. That will be mostly affirmative applications like family petitions, green card applications, naturalization applications. Then we have U.S. and Custom Enforcement, that's ICE. ICE is, so CBP is the one that's responsible for enforcement at the border. They have a jurisdiction of 100 miles from the border, and that actually covers about 2/3 of the U.S. population. So they have quite a reach. That's about 200 million people. And then finally, ICE is a cabinet, is a sub-agency of DHS, and deals with immigration enforcement. Okay, so what does ICE do? ICE enforces the immigration laws within the U.S. Some examples are they will do arrests, they will do raids, they will do detention, deportation, and removal proceedings. And then there's Homeland Security Investigations. That's a unit within ICE that may assist in workplace raids. They also conduct deportation proceedings in immigration court. You may see ICE, CBP, so these are the agencies we discussed, ICE, CBP, and HSI working together at these kinds of raids, these kinds of enforcements. So who is at risk? Honestly, right now we're seeing almost everyone who's a non-citizen, which is a little scary. But mostly it should be like non-citizens that are without immigration status right now. So that would mean your status expired or you're undocumented. So generally, ICE would go after people who have a criminal record or have prior orders of deportation or who are believed to be a threat to national security. But obviously, that doesn't mean that undocumented people are dangerous or that they're a threat to the community. You know, I'm sure we're quite familiar that a lot of undocumented people have lived in the US for, I don't know, like 30, 40 years even. Okay, why should you care? I know you guys all care, it's your community, but some reasons are obviously the violation of due process rights, you know, the limited access to counsel, especially in detention centers, excessive use of force, warrantless arrest, which could lead to racial profiling, as we've seen, harsh conditions at the detention center, which include intimidation, threats, and coercion. This might have to do with signing voluntary departure, saying that I will leave the country myself just because you're so frustrated and fed up. Families are separated, and sometimes there's no consideration for the community members that have significant ties to the U.S. Specifically with limited access to counsel, there's a statistic that I can't quite place right now, but the chance or having a lawyer in detention significantly increases your chances of, you know, a positive determination in court. I think it's definitely in the double digits percentage. Did I miss something? Yeah, so actually a couple of attorneys, myself and another attorney at CAIR, we actually visited the Atalanta Center a few weeks ago. We were there until about 10 p.m. trying to talk to people. You know, congressional representatives have visited the center and they have confirmed some of our concerns, which are, you know, people being arrested without warrants. The conditions in the cells are, you know, not livable long term. There's not enough beds for everyone. Sometimes people haven't changed their clothes in 10 days. Sometimes it's really hard for loved ones to figure out where they're actually located. They don't show up on the system immediately. They could be processed for 72 hours. So that could be 72 hours where you don't even know where your loved one is. The next one? Yeah. Okay. Oh, the chart? Okay, so we've seen ICE enforcement surpass Customs and Border Protection enforcement this year significantly. So right now, in just June 2025, 36,737 people have been booked into ICE detention. So that's 1 month. Almost a very, very, very insignificant percentage of people actually booked into ICE detention have any sort of criminal records. And those kind of criminal records might be a traffic violation. So it's 71.5% of detainees right now have no criminal convictions at all. Yeah, so Texas, Louisiana, Arizona, California, and Georgia hold the most detainees right now. Okay, what to know when interacting with ICE. Some of the tactics employed by ICE are data collection. They might look at your social media, you know, internet sources. They might use unmarked cars. We've seen a lot of, in the news, we've seen a lot of agents not even wearing clear uniforms. They'd come in street clothes, right? Oh, that's the next one. They wear face masks and sometimes civilian clothes. They'll come very early in the morning when folks are ready to leave for work or school. So this could be like at the break of dawn, 5 a.m. They conduct collateral arrests. This means that when they show up with a warrant, and maybe there's other people in the vicinity, they'll arrest the people that the person for which the warrant is served, and also they might arrest others around them. So that's a collateral arrest. They also might obtain private information from your cell phone, and they might pretend to be other agents. Something that is unfortunately illegal in ICE enforcement is something known as ruses. They're allowed to employ ruses as a tactic.
Like strictly, right?
Yeah, exactly. No? Oh, wait, are you next? Okay. So basic rights with ICE interaction. So remain silent. I think we've all kind of heard this. We all have the right to remain silent. We don't have to answer any questions about our immigration status. You don't even have to show an ID card that has your status. If you don't want to disclose this, you can show a school membership. You can show a club membership. So you can remain silent. And then speak. You should ask to speak to a lawyer. If you have a lawyer's contact, that would be, obviously very helpful. But definitely don't sign anything without talking to a lawyer. Because sometimes, they might say this is the best thing for you to do. Sometimes these forms are in only English, and you might not understand them. So it's always great to ask for a lawyer. Ask for an interpreter. Again, you can request an interpreter with any single conversation you have with ICE. Request a phone call. You should try to not only have a contact information memorized for yourself, but in the case yourself or a loved one is detained, somebody outside of the system, like your friend, your loved one, your family, should know all your information. The person that might be detained's information. They should know their birth date. They should know their alien number, so that they can look them up later in case they are detained. They can look them up in the system. Deny access without a judicial warrant. So this is very different than an immigration warrant, and we'll go through it later, but you don't have to allow ICE into your home without a warrant. Okay. Other tips, be calm, don't run. This is just like talking to cops, right? Be calm, don't run, don't lie or provide false documents. This is very important because any sort of lie has very long-term immigration consequences. And don't get in their way. I know we all want to protest, we all want to stand up to what we view very righteously, I think, as thugs in our community. But there are ways to protect yourself legally and go about, standing up for others a little bit more safely. Okay, private versus public. So I'm just going to read the Fourth Amendment here. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be searched. So if you actually listen to the language of the Fourth Amendment, if you read it carefully, it's quite specific. It's a broad protection, but also it limits the scope of law enforcement. So it's a broad protection, but it limits the scope. If you'll pay attention to it, it says that the expectation of privacy is not absolute and varies between public and private spaces. There's generally a higher expectation of privacy in obviously private areas like homes and your personal belongings, while being in a public space, you might have a lower or no expectation of privacy. So you can deny ICE access to areas where you have an expectation of privacy if they don't have a judicial warrant. And so let's examine what a judicial warrant looks like. Okay, so if you let's start with the right. That's kind of like an immigration warrant. If you'll notice at the top, it says warrant of removal /deportation. It has the U.S. Department of Homeland Security at the top. It says ICE. And then if you look closer, it says subject to removal/deportation from the United States. That's the little circled part over there. And then if you look at the very bottom, the signature slot is for a signature by an immigration officer. That's very different from a judicial warrant. For a judicial warrant, it has to be signed by a judge. It has to have your address. If it has your address and it's the wrong apartment number, it's wrong. It's not a valid warrant. It has to have your name properly. And it has to have the areas where, what property may be searched, it has to state clearly. And then something, if an ICE officer comes to your door with a warrant and you want to check the veracity of the warrant, you can ask them to hold the paper up to the window so you can examine it. Or you can ask them to slide it under the door so you can examine it. And then once you've confirmed it's a valid warrant, you will have to, let them in. But this is a very important step. Like I said before, if it's the wrong apartment number, it's not a valid warrant. Okay, if ICE has a valid judicial warrant, you can ask the ICE agents for identification so that you can make sure they actually are ICE agents. Again, you can ask them to hold that up to the window or the door or slide it under so you can, they probably won't slide it under. Hold it up so you can see it and verify. Again, you want to review the warrant, which we just went over. If an ICE inspector ever shows up at the masjid, God forbid, ask someone should be accompanying them, making sure that they're abiding by the parameters of the warrant. So again, like I said, the Fourth Amendment says that the warrant has to be specific, right? And also you're allowed to document interactions with ICE. You're allowed to record them. But again, don't interfere with them. We don't want anyone to put themselves in harm's way. Okay. At your home, so we spoke about this a little bit. ICE needs consent or a judicial warrant to enter and search your home. Your home is not just your home. It might be your house, it might be your whole apartment. If you're sharing a living space, it might be your bedroom. This also includes the areas around your home. For example, if you have a fenced-in yard, that's the curtilage of your home. That counts as a place that is your private domain. This also extends to like your doorstep or your garage or even the hallways of the apartment buildings. So again, we talked about wanting to see their ID and judicial warrant through a window or under the door. If there's no judicial warrant, you don't have to open the door. You don't have to answer any questions or especially don't show any false documents. You don't have to consent to a search. You can say, I do not give permission to enter my home and I do not wish to speak to you. I do not give you permission to be in front of my door. Please leave. And then, I don't know if we passed them out already, Amina, but we have some Know Your Rights cards. You can slip it under the door. You can show them the rights that you know you have. Okay. At your place of employment or your school. So we talked about public versus private spaces. ICE doesn't need a judicial warrant to enter any public space. So, sidewalks. I think the Supreme Court has, in some instances, ruled like shopping malls, parks. But there is a way to specify that, within public spaces. For example, I think that's the next slide, so I'll keep on this. Hold on. So ICE needs permission. Like we said before, they need consent to enter your home. It's the same principle with the restricted areas of like a school or a workplace or a masjid. But here's the catch, and what we want you to know is that if somebody allows them to enter that private space, then they're allowed to stay. So if everyone should know that they have the right not to let ICE enter the private spaces. Okay, what to do? don't run during a workplace raid. Like we said, this could result in more criminal charges. We've seen a lot of charges with, like, for example, assaulting an officer, where, you know, people were just resisting. If ICE stops you, you can ask if you're actually free to go. If they say yes, you can slowly walk away. Again, don't show any false documents, don't lie. You can remain silent. And then as a community, you can plan to deny access to private areas. You can remain silent, and you can ask to speak with an attorney. It's important to understand your employer's or your school's policies. And also, you can put up signage, even around the masjid, to designate restricted areas that are only for employees. Oh, we're at places where good. Okay, so as we said before, public versus private, but ICE might try to argue that certain spaces of the place of worship of the masjid are open to the public, and therefore no warrant is required. And like we said before, you guys may consider putting up some signs that are clearly delineated, saying that the entire masjid is private property and is only intended to be used for purposes authorized by the masjid. And then if you guys may designate one or two individuals to deal with any ICE officers that show up, who have been trained and who understand all these rights. And again, you know, you don't have to open the door or the gate to ICE agents, post signs. And then these words are really powerful. This is a private space. I do not give you permission to enter, and I do not wish to speak to you. Please leave. So recently we saw in Fullerton, a car wash owner advocated for his employees. ICE was coming in saying this is a public place. He was saying, no, this is my business. You're not allowed in. And he actually, saved some people. It was a powerful action. Okay, ICE in your car. Your car is kind of a special area between public and private. So technically, they're not allowed to enter your car without a warrant, but they are if they have probable cause that a crime is underway. Okay, let's start with that. ICE needs consent or a judicial warrant to search the car. Only the driver of the car actually has to show their ID. Passengers can refuse, but everybody has a right to remain silent. So if you get pulled over by an ICE agent, very similar to interacting with the police, pull over, stay calm, keep your hands on the wheel. You can show your license and registration. You can lower the window only enough to hand them your documents. You don't have to answer any questions about your immigration status. And don't show any false documents again. Don't consent to a search. And if they insist on searching, ask for a search warrant. Show them the Know Your Rights card, again, like that, we're gonna pass out, right? Okay. And then local police, LAPD, should not be asking for your immigration status. ICE in public spaces. Okay, so ICE doesn't need a judicial warrant to actually talk to you, interact with you in a public space, but they need a warrant or consent to search you or your belongings. So this is what I said before, the kind of probable cause. A judicial warrant or proof that you're not legally allowed to be in the U.S. or to have committed a crime. That's what they need to arrest you. In this scenario, you can ask if you're being arrested or detained. If no, you can ask them if you may leave, and then you can slowly and calmly walk away if they say yes. If they say yes, you are being arrested or detained, you can assert your rights. You can ask them if they have a judicial warrant and or proof that you're not allowed to be in the U.S. legally or that you have committed a crime. If they say they have proof, say that you do not want to answer any questions without an attorney, and then assert your right to remain silent. If you have been in the U.S. for over 2 years, you may consider telling them. And I think we'll talk about this a little later. That's called, the reason 2 years is important is because that means you're not subject to something called expedited removal. If you're returning to your home country, you need to assert it and say it repeatedly at every conversation you have with them. So this is really important. We've had some changes in the law recently that says that it's called a shout law. You have to assert that you're afraid to go back to your home country. You have to be very vocal about it. You can't just, they won't assume on your behalf. Asked to make a call, and again, do your best to memorize some trusted contacts. Don't sign anything without consulting an attorney. And again, we just keep repeating this, don't show false documents or lie. Okay, witnessing ICE interaction. Like we said before, ICE doesn't need a judicial warrant to interact with people in a public space. So if you witness it happening, you can record them from a safe distance. You're allowed to record ICE. But as we've seen recently, ICE has become more aggressive lately. You should consider the risk of arrest. And with that, I say, if your immigration status is not set, it's not secure, I would suggest staying out of these situations. Oh, because we talked about before collateral arrests, right? Shout your rights to remain silent, ask for a lawyer, express fear of returning home, ask for a contact number. Connect with a local rapid response to be an ICE verifier. We'll show you the rapid response resources we have soon. Provide pictures and videos. So document. It's been very powerful to have all these images, right? And then, we have some resources we can share, and you guys can share that too to, connect people who might be at risk. And then, safety plans. See what you might do if somebody's detained. You might want to put into place protocols for taking care of the kids, etc. Oh, here's the safety plan. Okay. Know your rights, like we've been doing here today. Carry proof of your immigration status. This might be a green card or a work permit, the employment authorization card. You can, actually, I've heard about people even carrying a picture of their birth certificate if they were born here. It's kind of scary. Know your legal options, immigration-wise, and try to get a consult from an immigration attorney if you have any questions. An immigration attorney might see something that you haven't. Even a second consult, a different immigration attorney might see something the first one hasn't. Yeah, be prepared, like we said before. Collect and record information and gather documents for those at risk. So, choose a caregiver, and we said that before. Plan for your children's needs. Have your travel documents ready. Execute legal documents like power of attorney or travel consent. You communicate plans with your family. And then again, proof of residence if you have been in the U.S. for over 2 years to prevent being placed in expedited removal. So expedited removal is something that the Trump administration has been ramping up. It's not new, but the way they're enforcing is new, right? It's basically if you have entered the U.S. Without documentation, and you have been in the U.S. for less than 2 years, you're at risk of expedited removal. That's why a lot of these people who have been paroled into the U.S. lately are being detained, and the cases are being dismissed in front of the immigration court. So expedited removal, if you've been here for over 2 years, it's a good thing to be able to show. And then we just have some resources. Orange County Rapid Response Network, we have Los Angeles Rapid Response Network. These have been really useful. I've been on some calls. I've seen these rapid response volunteers show up to ICE check-ins. They just show support. They're always there protesting. And then rapid response. If you have anybody detained, they have a lot of connections and a lot of resources. For example, they might connect you or your family with food resources, if that's an issue because your loved one's primary caretaker or primary provider is now detained. They might have rent assistance. They might have bond support. If your loved one is detained, they might have bond support, to pay the bond so they can actually come out. So yeah, resources. And then this is our contact information. If you guys, I don't know if you want to take a picture or we have the QR code here too.
So,
Oh, questions?
well,
No?
before, sure, we can do.
I just not a question. Can you guys introduce yourselves?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we didn't do that. My name's Shravya. I'm an immigration attorney at CAIR Los Angeles.
My name is Amina Fields. I'm the senior managing attorney at CAIR Greater Los Angeles office in their Immigrant Rights Center. And I also want to mention a disclaimer that the information we're providing today is for informational, educational purposes. It's not meant to provide you with legal advice, and you shouldn't make a significant decision about your immigration case based on the information here. We recommend that you have a one-on-one consultation if you haven't done so already with an immigration attorney. And we offer those consultations for free. But what I like to do now is do a little pop quiz to see if you guys are paying attention to Saravia and the information that she was providing you. Let's start with, let's say, you. What's your name, sir? Fatar? Badr. Okay. Let's say you arrive at the Hawthorne Masjid and you're just parking and you're walking towards the building, the masjid, and you see an ICE officer. Well, you see someone that looks like they're in military clothing, we don't know. And they're asking if they can come into the building. What do you do?
I refer them to whoever is in charge of this place, and hopefully that person would ask if they require ID, and also ask if they have a judicial warrant to come in.
That's exactly right. He said that he would refer them to an authorized person. So he would tell ICE, I'm not authorized to give consent. I'm not giving you consent. You wait here. I'm going to get someone authorized to talk to you. And so the masjid should designate someone, a couple of their staff, and train them to know how to review a warrant and to know when it's a valid warrant or when it's a administrative warrant and when they can deny it. Because there has been report that they have gone to masjid and they didn't have a warrant. And so the masjid told them that they don't have permission and they left. It's also recommended, if it's feasible, that you have one point of entry and that you have security at that point of entry to control people that are coming in and out. Now, what if can ICE arrest you in a public place without a warrant?
They can interact with you, but they cannot search yourself. They cannot search you. They need a warrant to search you, but they can interact with you and talk to you.
Right. So that is correct. He said that they can't search your person, but they can talk to you. So the question is, can they arrest you without a warrant?
They have.
Well, remember, Sarabi said there's two things that they need to arrest you. One is if they have an administrative warrant from if they're in a public place.
Yes.
If they're in a public place, let's say you're just walking down the street. Remember when we saw that video of that student, that lady? She was in the sidewalk and they all surrounded her because they didn't have a warrant to go into her house. They waited for her to be in a public place. And they had a warrant, but it was an administrative warrant to arrest her based on unfounded immigration grounds. But they used that to arrest her. So, to summarize, they can arrest you if they have an administrative warrant And the administrative warrant would show proof, they would have some proof that she either violated an immigration law or that she doesn't have status. Now, if they didn't have a warrant, then they would have to have probable cause to conclude that you don't have status. And they may make that conclusion based on their interaction with you and based on the information that you provide them. That's why we recommend that if you don't have status, that you don't say anything. Don't give them any information and make it easier for them. You can give them your name, and as Robbie said, you can give them ID, but the ID doesn't have to indicate your immigration status. But what they can do is that if you give them your student ID, they may search in their database to see if it matches with any of the people they have listed that they know is undocumented. And if it does match, then that's where they can arrest you. But if it doesn't match, that's where they have to make further determination whether they have enough. And that's where the lawsuits are happening right now, is because we're concerned that they don't have probable cause and they're just seeing people in the street because they're brown and in neighborhoods where it's mostly immigrants. And they're stopping them because of that, and that's illegal. That's racial profiling.
So the answer to your question is they can and they do arrest you, even if they don't have probable cause, and even if they don't have a judicial warrant.
Well, we're not saying that that's legal.
Right.
I mean, they're doing that, but what the law says is that they either have a warrant to arrest you or have probable cause that you are not authorized to be in the U.S. Because CBP and ICE are agencies that have the purpose to enforce immigration laws. Do you have another quiz for them? Okay. Okay. So let's talk about ICE tactics. What are some of the tactics that they employ? Can someone list one that you heard?
And they employ to do what?
Or what kind of strategies, or how do they operate? Just to understand the tactics that they use against immigrant communities.
They come in with the civilian clothes.
Yes, that's right. They're not clearly identified as the police. And so that's scary because we don't know if we're being kidnapped by strangers or law enforcement. And that is part of some litigation because we think that that is violating some of our rights, and there are lawsuits that are trying to force them to identify themselves before they kidnap you or snatch you up.
They trick you into revealing information. Like you show them your phone and they get into your phone. You share with them content that they don't have the right to, but you gave it to them.
Right, they can be very intimidating and they can make you feel like you don't have a choice. And then you give them your phone. But there's something to, it's important to mention is that when you're at the airport and you're returning from an international flight and you're encountering CBP, they can take your phone. Even if you're a US citizen, they can take your phone. But what they can't do is force you to tell them what your password is. They would need a warrant, judicial warrant, to be able to get your password or passcode to get into your phone.
Turn off your
Facial recognition.
yeah, turn off your facial recognition, turn off your fingerprint biometrics when you're going through ports of entry. Also, ports of entry are not considered being in the U.S., so you don't have the rights you do as a person in the U.S. at ports of entry. that's airports too.
Yeah.
Another recommendation is that maybe you, if you want to protect your privacy, you can remove some of the applications in social media. And then you can re-add it when you are released from the airport. Okay, now what do you do if ICE comes to your employment? Let's see, sir in the middle, do you work in an office?
No, I'm working as a cashier.
Okay, so a cashier and they go in the store. What would you do if ICE asks you if they can search the employee room?
It's not public, I said it's not a public, public like area, it's only for employees, so they can't enter.
That's good. You can deny them access. There have been reports that they went to grocery stores, last month they were targeting certain Persian grocery stores. And so what did the owner do? They asked them if they had a warrant. As an employee, you can direct them to your employer and tell them, I don't have authorization to give you consent to search this area. And if I did, I wouldn't. You couldn't go talk to my boss. And hopefully your boss has the same policy and also understanding of the rights to be able to deny them access. And typically they don't have, right now they don't have a lot of warrants. They are more motivated by meeting numbers. I think there is an internal policy for them to meet a quota, like an arrest, like about 3,000 a day. That is like 10 times as many arrests that under the Biden administration last year. So that means that they're exhausting their list of people that they want to search for. And now they're just going out on the streets and going into stores, car washes, swap meets, and just looking at people that they think are undocumented. And that's wrong. That just because they look at you and they think that they should harass you. So in most of the time, they don't have warrants. And if you deny them and you repeat it and you assert it, try not to escalate it and just say, I don't give you permission, you need to leave, you don't have consent, you don't have a warrant, you're not here, you're not welcome here, you don't have consent to be here. And they may say, this is a public place, and then you or your boss can say, this is a place for customers. Are you a customer? Well, as an owner, I reserve the right to deny any customer I want, and I'm telling you to leave. And that's what the owner of the car wash did. He says, are you here to get your car washed? Are you a customer? Then you need to leave. I want you to leave now. And he said it calmly, and they slowly walked away and off the premise. Are there any other questions? I don't have any other pop quizzes. Ladies back there, do you have any questions?
I have a question.
Sir.
We heard about the governors was opposing what happened, what's going on with ICE. Is this still going on? We don't know what's the status right now in California.
They're still around. They're still, the activities seem to be less than about 2 weeks ago, but there is a court order out right now to ask, to halt their activities in Southern California. And that may be slowing down what they're doing, and also they may be just gathering and planning ahead and rolling out a bigger effort because they just got a big budget
I mean, without this budget that the Congress just granted, ICE would have like went bankrupt. I mean, they were running out of money. And now they've been granted the biggest budget ever. And that could result in more resources, more ICE officers, and more activities. But it hasn't stopped. The rapid response team in Orange County and LA are getting reports of ICE activities every day. Not as much, but they are still making arrests. And they still can make arrests with warrants. They may not be able to do what they're doing about just racially profiling people out on the streets. But it's happening. And so it's important for you all to know the number to your rapid response organization in your area, so that if you see ICE activities, you can take a picture and call them and say, I see an ICE agent at a car wash, at a grocery store. And also the rapid response is another resource where you can call to get connected to resources if you have a family member or friend that was detained, because they'll connect you to attorneys that can help locate where you are and provide an assessment and possibly appoint an attorney for you. Because the government won't appoint an attorney because you're not considered in criminal court. When you're in criminal court, you have a right to an attorney, and the government will pay for one if you can't afford it. But in immigration court, it's considered civil court, and therefore you have a right to an attorney, but you have to pay it yourself.
So, is ICE also used to fight against people's speech? Like when that Turkish student was picked up off the street, she had legal status. I think they knew that she had legal status, but because of a speech or because of her what she spoke out against, specifically Palestine, she was picked up. Is it ICE agents that do that, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're seeing that they're weaponizing the immigration laws to violate people's freedom of speech. And that is something that the attorneys are trying to litigate in court. We think it is a violation of the First Amendment speech. But the position that the government is taking is that they are using an obscured immigration law that allows for the Secretary of State to determine whether a person that's in the U.S. that's not a U.S. citizen, it allows the Secretary of State to determine that person's activity on whether it is adversarial to U.S. foreign policy. And this was an old law that is very rarely used. And we think that they're only applying that law to revoke someone's green card only to people that are advocating for Palestinian rights, or advocating for a policy that is against the U.S. government.
What about naturalized citizens? Are there instances where they've been targeting naturalized citizens?
Yes. But going back to the one, the government is targeting people that are active, and so one example is the lady that you mentioned. Another is Khalil Mahmood,
And fortunately, he was detained for several months and he was fortunately released, but his case is ongoing. And they are still trying to revoke his status because they are claiming that he may have misrepresented some information to get a green card. And they're applying very strict scrutiny in reviewing his application. And anything minor, they're trying to claim that that is material to the application. And it could be something like he may have forgot to include an activity or club or an association that he is a part of in his application, because it does ask for you to list all of your associations. And before it wasn't as big of a deal, and now they're trying to use whatever means they can just so they can revoke his status. But we know what the motive is. It's not because of them thinking that he violated immigration law. It's because they want to silence him for his viewpoints on Palestine. And that takes me to denaturalization of people. There is more effort by this administration to denaturalize people. And so people can get denaturalized if immigration finds out that you've lied on your application to get your green card or to get naturalized. They can also denaturalize you if you, I believe, are not in a criminal, but I think if you're like a member of the Nazi Party or the totalitarian party within 5 years of being a U.S. citizen. So there are very narrow ways that you can be naturalized, but for the most part, it's going to be due to some fraud that you provided in your immigration history.
Amina reminded me, so if you're going through a situation where you're applying for the next step of your immigration process, for example, we've seen a lot of people get, especially Afghan immigrants, get granted asylum, and now they're applying for their green cards, and they're going through a lot of scrutiny about their asylum application. So, if the asylum application was done wrong, because a lot of people got through at that time, thankfully, at the green card process, they could reopen the scrutiny for the asylum application. They could revoke the asylum approval. The same is for when you go to the naturalization step, when you go to citizenship. They might look back at your green card application and see something that they didn't like, that seemed a little off. And they might deny your naturalization, try to revoke your green card, try to, put you in removal proceedings. So now everything moving forward, we all have to be really careful about. I was talking to a woman who had a exclusion order. So this is the 80s. This is before removal orders or like voluntary departure. She had an exclusion order, and she got her green card through an amnesty program. She was going to naturalize, and it got flagged because she didn't go and close the exclusion order now. So it didn't seem like it mattered before, but now everything matters.
Yeah.
So we help with naturalization application, and what we do is we review the person's immigration history through a lot of questions to identify whether there's any errors or misrepresentation. So it's not only based on misrepresentation or error by you, but it could be a mistake made by the government, and then they can use that mistake and roll back and revoke your status.
So when you encounter an ICE agent, so do you recommend talking to them or just plead the fifth?
I recommend that. So what's the point
in wanting to talk to them. It's just that you have to think like, are you required to talk to them? Because if you're not, then what is the risk of talking to them? Because the more information you give them, the more information that they can gather and use against you or someone that you know that they're looking for. And if you want to help them, that's your decision. But you have a choice to not talk. And that goes with any law enforcement. You have a choice. And if they don't have a judicial warrant, you have a choice to remain silent. That goes with if the FBI comes and tries to talk to you at your house in masjid. Because a lot of times they're fishing for information and they're trying to surveillance the Muslim community. And people think that maybe because they're friendly and you don't have anything to hide, so why not talk? But ask yourself, why should you talk? What are the benefits and the risks of talking versus not talking?
What happens if you just stay silent, remain silent?
Well, if ICE talks to you, let's say if you, what is the minimum, if you're a US citizen, it just depends on what your concerns are. If you're a US citizen and ICE wants to talk to you and you're concerned about not wanting to be detained, then you can tell them, I'm a US citizen, here's my real ID. But if you are a lawful permanent resident and you're concerned that they may think you're undocumented, then I think it's appropriate to say, I'm a green card holder, here's my green card. But if you are undocumented, then what are the benefits of talking to them and saying, I'm undocumented? You might as well just jump in the van and put the handcuffs on.
2 more minutes, please. We're gonna pray.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, again, that's our information. You may be a US citizen, but if you know anybody that needs a consultation because of their immigration status or application, please refer them to us. And do we have the sign-in sheet? If you haven't, please sign in and